What's with each academics in? Well. Now the day of reckoning is here because we got Lil Durk sales back in. We're going to do a review. We're going to talk it all on up. Okay, now check it out. Okay, first and foremost, Lil Durk dropped his debut album. It's called Remember My Name. It debuted number 14 on the Billboard Top 200 album list. Okay, now you might have seen on his Instagram, he said, oh, he's number 2. Hold up. Okay, because that number 2 is on a different charts, and that charts is the hip-hop, basically the hip-hop and rap charts, okay? Basically that only sorts only rappers and hip-hop and R&B, which means there was really only 2 major albums from rappers who dropped. It was Lil Durk and A$AP Rocky, and he was number 2. So 2 out of 2 is definitely nothing too big. However, he was number 14 overall. We usually look overall anyway, all right? Now, you're probably wondering, what the fuck is the numbers? Now, you guys remember, I did my prediction. I said he's going to sell 22,000. A lot of people said, bruh, I didn't know the hate was so deep in your blood. Now, the thing is, most of you guys get it fucked up. Listen, I'm a fan of some of these guys, but my job is to be objective, okay? This is what I do for a living, okay? I analyze these things. I make projections. When I make these projections, I do it because I've had historical proof that it should be correct. I'm not saying shit out my ass because I'm going to look like an idiot if I'm not right. Now, here's the thing, right? A lot of people say, yo, man, you were hating. You were hating. Listen, even Lil Durk's DJ, right? He called me out. He said, bruh, check it out, man. You a hating-ass motherfucker. How dare you say Lil Durk ain't selling 100,000? Because that was a number. Lil Durk said he was going to sell 100,000 first week. His DJ said, you predicted he wasn't going to sell 100,000. You're a hating-ass nigga. Now, I predicted 22,000. Now, this is his official numbers, right? He sold 23,564 albums, okay? Those were bought on iTunes or physically in the store. Now, they do add another number to it to get the complete album sales because they start adding streaming. So, Spotify, Pandora, Tidal, YouTube, Google Music, they all get added into it to get a higher number. Now, pretty much his complete number was 27,615. Okay? Now, listen, we don't need to be doing no type of arithmetic. Come on now. 27,000 is way less than 100,000, okay? And I keep it real, 27,000 is way closer to 22 than it is to 100,000. Now, the thing is, man, I made a friendly wager, and I think he deleted it right now because, listen, man, these guys, they talk about their with the shits until you really tell them to put their money where their fucking mouth is. Now, Lil Durk's DJ, his name is DJ Benson. You can tag him. Ask him what the fuck happened. Because he came at me crazy. I told you. He deleted the Instagram post by now, but he said, how dare you say he's not going to sell 100,000, 22,000. So I said this, okay? My name is DJ Akademiks, okay? I'm over here schooling niggas, including you. Your name is DJ Bands. You got all the bands. I'm probably guessing you're rich as fuck. Okay, put up one band. That's $1,000 in nigga terminology. If he sells over 100,000 records, I'll pay you one band. That's $1,000. I'll pay it to you. I'll make a video, lock it in, everything. If he doesn't sell over 100,000 records, you pay me $1,000. Now, I was ready for the deal. I proposed it to him. But of course, like any savage who clearly can't do math, he definitely backed down. He backed down, deleted the post, said he's not doing it because clearly he doesn't have that much faith in Lil Durk. And to be honest, man, his job is to spin a fucking record and boost Lil Durk's ego. My job is to tell the truth, okay? This is my job. Okay, now I don't want to put it like it's me versus Lil Durk. To be honest, I want Lil Durk. Oh, yo, keep it real. I would love for Lil Durk to do over 100,000 records because it gives hope to other savages or other rappers in the drill movement that they could put out a record. So I don't mind. I would love for that to happen, but I'm being realistic. And sometimes being real is just not the popular thing. Now, let's just put his sales in perspective because somebody's probably thinking, yo, we can't compare his sales to like Drake. Come on, man. This is unfair. We can't compare his shit to Drake. You're correct. You're definitely correct. Drake is on like his 4th or 5th album. Can't, or mixtape, or at least project that he sold on iTunes. We can't compare him. Now, let's compare him to somebody who's definitely comparable, right? And because you guys are probably wondering, is this a flop? Okay, Logic is also on Def Jam. He dropped his debut album called Under Pressure last year in October, right? Basically, Def Jam uses a one-size-fit-all marketing scheme for all these new rappers, which means they send them to the same outlets, they do the same interviews, they have the same looks, the same promotional tours, the same marketing scheme for everybody, okay? Now, when Logic album sales came back, he sold 73,000 records first week. Obviously, Lil Durk sold way less, pretty much like 50,000 records less, okay? Now, you're probably wondering, damn, what the fuck? Now, let me tell you this. This is probably the advantage of not always being signed. Because when you're signed, these labels don't understand that Lil Durk's fan base is different. You got to get at them differently. You can't send them on the same marketing run that you sent a Logic, right? You can't be sending them to platforms that have never played his music, never, and expect him to do big sales because they're still not going to play his music. They use it for an interview, they throw it up, and that's it. But of course, these record labels, they use a one-size-fit-all. That's why a lot of rappers who are independent, they win. And I'm saying this to Lil Durk in case he's listening. When you do eventually become independent, you'll realize how to better use your time wisely. And when you're promoting to the right people. Okay? All right. So, as I said, we're going to later discuss another thing. It's about is he a liability or is he an asset? Because you guys are probably wondering, okay, after the flop conversation, people are going to be wondering, will he be dropped? We saw Chief Keef getting dropped. A lot of people said Chief Keef was a write-off. But basically, for Interscope, he was costing too much money. He became a liability. You're dropped. For Lil Durk, you sold 22,000 records. Are you an asset or a liability or essentially a tax write-off? We'll talk about that at a different time. Now, let's actually just review this goddamn album because it's actually 10 tracks on there. It's kind of an easy listen, to be honest. And 10 tracks kind of tells me one thing. Tells me that Def Jam did not have a lot of faith in him. Because if you guys don't know, man, usually if you're for a regular artist, a record label try to keep you between like 13 and 14 or 13 and 15 tracks. The days where people used to put out like 17 and 18 tracks on a record, that's gone. That's over with. Now, if you're probably wondering, so why? Now, Lil Durk is not lazy. He could probably make 1 million tracks and want to put on one CD. But for Def Jam, it cost them more money to have more information burned on a disc. So it costs them more money to put the records out. They got to pay more people because it's more records. It just costs them more in general to have more records more than the minimum, okay? Now, the minimum is usually like anything over 8. So 10, they're like, okay, we're going to go with 10. But as far as the standard version, there's 10. On the deluxe version, there's 12. So we're going to go through it. Overall, if you're probably wondering what I thought, it wasn't Lil Durk's best project, but it was definitely his most balanced. To me, if you didn't get drowned in the auto-tune, listen to the whole thing, he kind of got he got some pretty decent cuts on there, right? Now, we're going to just go through it track by track, and then you guys get in the comment box, and you guys tell me what you thought of all this stuff, okay? Now, number 1. The first track is called Homicide, right? And it's obviously inspired by the 500 homicides that was reported in Chirac, okay, in 2012, which was arguably the height of the drill movement, right? And the fascination with like Chief Keef, National Spotlight really took shape around Chicago. That's when we saw all these guys gain their popularity. We also get like on the track I'm talking about, we get a free Rondo number 9 shout out. Okay, he's currently in jail battling murder charges, right? To me, the track is dope. Dope as fuck. I can't even lie. I mean, he got some dope lines in there. He's like, yo, what's up with the Twitter beef? I thought we would keep it in the streets. I mean, he shows why he's a Chirac war general on this particular track. And all that, remember people were saying, yo, he's becoming Minister Durk Farrakhan. Actually, I was calling him that for a little bit. But he went all out war. He was on phase, didn't give a fuck. And I'm not going to lie, this is probably one of my top 3 songs on the goddamn album. It would be my favorite, except there's another one that I really fuck with. I'll get to it eventually. But number 2 is Amber Alert. This is actually the second track on the album. It's produced by Metro Boomin, which is a little bit weird because I don't kind of hear Metro Boomin do a lot of drill beats. But I'll tell you this, okay? One thing I knew about this track initially, Lil Durk and Auto-Tune, they're kind of like hit and miss. All right, a lot of times he overuses it too much, and I'm sorry, I don't want to hear a song where the hook sounds like my niggas, my killers, my niggas killers. Like, listen, I don't want to hear that type of energy. Like, I don't want to hear you saying you're gonna kill somebody harmonizing with autotune. This shit don't sound hard. It just doesn't sound aggressive, no matter how aggressive you are. Now, I'm not saying it's whack, but he was rhyming about way too much hard shit to have it way too auto-tuned up. So it lacked the feeling of being a hard record to me. Now, Number 3 is actually a record which I believe is a Def Jam placement, and it's called Like Me with Jeremiah. Obviously, Jeremiah is another person on Def Jam, which kind of goes well together. And also, Jeremiah is from Chicago, so it kind of makes sense. I mean, Jeremiah don't really got a stimulus package to give, but he kind of gave a donation. I mean, the Durk autotune this time was cool. All right, it wasn't too overused. It was cool. It was just right. It wasn't the radio smash that I thought Def Jam was trying to get. But it was definitely a cool track for his fans who probably wanted a more commercially sounding record. And that's the thing, man. That's why it puzzled me why he went to like some of these stations that they're not going to pick the song up, man. They're not going to pick it up. I mean, this song is definitely like on a checklist of how to create an album by a label. They said, oh, we need a chick song. This is definitely the song. And I'm not saying it's whack. I like the song. But I think it's a great combination, but it's not that record to play on every radio station. As I said, his fans will like it. Now, number 4. This song is actually a psychopathic threat to all his baby mamas or women who's ever encountered Lil Durk. For some reason, man, I don't know what the fuck Lil Durk was talking about on here. I don't know if he's talking about one of his baby mamas, both of his baby mamas, but clearly he's sending them a stern threat like, listen, he's not with that child support shit, and I could understand. I mean, I could definitely understand. And by the way, this track is called Lord Don't Make Me Do It. And he's talking about, Lord, don't make me fuck you up if you do some fucked up shit. And I like the song. It was a little bit change of pace, and you'll realize through the album, like, it's balanced because it's not just a bunch of songs sounding like 500 homicides, even though I think most fans probably like that, but it's more balanced. Okay, now, track 5 is a song called Don't Judge Me. It's kind of a nice hook. To be honest, it felt like another track made for radio. He kind of goes on about a story for his life, and he's constantly saying who he's being portrayed to be, and even though I'm not even sure what he's trying to make the point to be, like, yeah, you're portrayed to be a savage. Are you not a savage? But I think he's trying to say he's more than that. He's more than that, and people don't focus on the other things. And I'm not too sure if that's because he doesn't promote it or it's just more interesting when people look at him in this light. I don't know. So it's actually a good song, though. Number 6. It's a song called Tryna Tryna, and this features Logic. Easily the best song on the album, all right? It got a renegade-type verse by Logic because he stole the album with the best verse on the album, and he literally killed it. And Durk came in with the harmonic, trying to turn up type of verse, hook, which I think is cool. It was a weird placement a little bit to me because Logic kind of came in and just like absolutely killed it. Logic, after Logic kind of spit, it was like, okay, that's it, at least for me. Now, track 7, and by the way, about Tryna Tryna, I still think it's the best track on the album. Best track. Okay. Track 7. Okay, this one, it took me really a little bit to love. All right? I mean, at first, I liked it, but I didn't love it. You know when you like something, but you didn't love it? And I didn't really love it until I really got intoxicated and really got into it. This track kind of feels like you got to be leaned up, smoked up, and probably might be on shrooms or some type of hallucinogen to really get this shit. But it's actually a very dope track, too. So I'll definitely give this one a pass as well. Track 8 is a track called, what is this shit called? This shit called Resume. And pretty much he's talking about his shit, but it felt like this felt like a track that was just a regular, it was decent, a decent album cut, but not much more, right? I mean, Lil Durk to me is used to making these kind of like real chant-ready music that could be singles at any time, and this kind of felt like it was a little bit underwhelming. But I'm not saying it's whack, underwhelming. Okay, now number 9, and this song is called What's Your Life Like? And to be honest, this was probably one of the best songs on the album too. I mean, straight Durk. I mean, it kind of felt like the formula that he kind of used with like, this ain't what you want, but it felt like something else. And it made me think, I'm like, this is kind of what people love from Durk. And then I thought about it a little bit more, and I'm like, wait, Young Chop is here. That's why. Listen, man, Young Chop is the leader for the orchestra for all these demonic hymns that's getting produced out of Chirac. And I don't know why people don't just let Young Chop, let Young Chop executively produce the album. But definitely, Lil Durk goes in on the track. This is why he's the war general of Chirac, the 5-star war general. Definitely a top 3 song, if not top 5 song on the album. And by the way, if you guys are listening, I want to hear your top 5 too. Now, Why Me is actually a dope track. I think it's a dope track, but it's still a letdown. I'm going to tell you why. Because on the standard version of the album, this will be the last track on the album. And it didn't feel it was the best way to conclude an album, especially when you started it so aggressively. It seemed like you were telling a story about the whole 500 homicide thing, kind of get into describing your life. And then with this track, it just kind of did not complete the story, which I'm going to go on and tell you which one did. But for the song to complete the standard version of the album, it felt like it was an incomplete meal. Now, we go on to the tracks that are only on the deluxe version, okay? Track 11, and it's called Ghetto. This is produced by Young Chop. Listen, Young Chop could do no wrong, man. Young Chop know how to get these guys where they need to be, make the right song for them, the right time, and if it's not a hit song, it's a good or great song. I mean, we even hear Hypno Carlito. He gives a dope-ass verse on this one, but this is what I love hearing from Lil Durk, and that's what I'm saying. Most of these songs, man, you need Young Chop, man. You just need him. You need him. I'm not sure if there's an equivalent or another producer that could kind of get these rappers like that, at least in Chirac, or it doesn't have to be there, but Young Chop does it. Now, number 12, which is the last track on the album, is called Remember My Name. Feels like the track to close an album out with, okay? Kind of has a cinematic ending to the album. It feels like the real end to the album. And even though it's only on the deluxe version, I like how Durk wraps it up. He raps about his life and really raps about, he kind of gets you into the mind of him operating in his environment. And I thought it was dope. And I thought he concluded the album in a good way. Now, we did all the tracks. Overall, you guys are probably wondering what I think about the album. I thought the effort was decent. Now I got to tell you, and I do this with like every goddamn album review, because some people, you're gonna hear some weirdo just jump out like, "Wait, you can't give it this rating, and then you gave Kendrick this. You can't give it this rating, and then you gave J. Cole." Shut the fuck up, okay? This is why you gotta press pause on everybody. Not everything is graded on one fucking gradient, okay? This is graded on the same gradient that we're gonna grade Chief Keef Finally Rich on, okay? And pretty much all drill music in general. Drill music, you can't compare a drill album to like Kendrick Lamar to Pimp a Butterfly, okay? Doesn't make sense. But what I would give this album, if I'm going to compare it to like a Chief Keef Finally Rich, which I thought that was an A effort. That was an A effort, and it was really like a personal classic. This, and considering it's his debut album, I'm going to have to say this is like a C+. And this is a 3.9 out of 5. And it's a 3.9 out of 5, which means it's not bad, but for a debut album, and I'm thinking you're preparing for this moment for the last 5 years since you've been rapping, I expected more. I expected more of an impact. I expected a little bit more, but while saying that, it's not something we could just discard. It's definitely something you can listen to, and I'm hoping, and I don't know if it'll be on Def Jam or not, when his next project comes out, and if it's in a album format, it will be a complete and shows the progression and growth I think could happen. Because to be honest, I think Lil Durk is better than this album is, okay? And maybe this one kind of drew him out and made him more versatile, but I've seen Lil Durk at his best, and I don't think this was the best 12 Lil Durk tracks. And I get it, you got to have some diversity, but I thought it could have been better. So he's going to get a 3.9 out of 5. I don't think that's bad. You guys get in the comment box. What do you guys give your rating? You guys give your review. And also, what's your top 5 tracks? If you didn't listen to it, why not? Okay? Get in the comment box. Make sure you guys like, definitely subscribe. By the way, there's a link in the description. There's going to be a stream to the album if you guys didn't listen or never heard it or didn't purchase it. Shwoody Akademiks. I'm out.